Hello and welcome. Tonight we have what I consider a pretty important topic. We're going to talk about water.
That's the
Jeff, you
second most.
seem
That
so
is
exciting.
the second most important for all living creatures, right?
Well, I mean, I've tried so many different watering systems over the years. You and I've talked about different systems that I've tried, things to try to make it different, things to try to make it better. So I figured, hey, look, you know what? There's people out there. I've seen a lot in the PK 360 group and in the poultry breeder nutrition group. A lot of people are getting chicks this time of year, or a lot of people are just getting into chickens this time of year. So I figured, hey, look, it'd be a great time to hopefully save them a lot of headaches and screaming fits and making up some four-letter words. We'll save them all that trouble, and maybe they can learn from the crap that we've been through.
Maybe, but
Maybe.
the reality of it is people have to work through their own iterations of mistakes. Okay. There's a very
Yeah.
small percentage who actually learn from other people's mistakes, but that's all right. It's all right.
Well, we can give them some ideas
Yeah.
and they can try it and see if it works or not themselves.
You know, uh, okay. So the concept that I was bugging you about that you're going to talk about tonight
Mhm.
is going to be mind blowing for a lot of the people listening tonight. Right. So just anyway.
Well, so, I gave you a lot of mess years ago about chicken feed, and I had to eat crow on that one. So this time when you're like, hey, you should try this, I was like, well, what would it look like? Okay. I mean, I like the concept, and to be honest, I have birds that are using that now. They're growing faster, they're healthier, their their combs and wattles are red while everybody else is miserably molten. And I just it works. Now I will say this. Um Turkey nipples and chicken nipples are different
You do
because
not
if you
use, you don't use a turkey nipple for a chicken, right?
so I was like, okay, look, I'll get these, I'll use these, and then that, and no. So I just raised my nipple line up high where only the turkeys could play with it.
They are not created equal. And,
No.
like a chick nipple is not the same as a mature bird nipple, right? They make specified to deliver a certain amount of water per peck, right? And like a layer nipple is going to deliver way more than a chick needs, right? And a turkey nipple is going to deliver a lot more than a chick or a chicken needs. So anyway, I know
That is
we're
true.
we're we're just kind of teasing them with what we're going to talk about, but you can roll into it whenever you like. But look,
Look, I'll say this. Like I'm a huge fan. I have so what got me into that type watering is that's all my quail use, period. Since brooder, they've never had anything else. When they go into the cage, they're on nipples. Um, my pigs, it don't matter what you build a watering system out of, even steel, a pig could tear it up. Um, but you get a steel pipe, stainless steel pipe, and a stainless steel nipple. They haven't tore that up yet.
No.
Now they'll sit and play with it.
Now wait, if you get it too close or you get it inside their pen fully, right, where they can, they'll find a way to destroy that as well. So just
So what I did was I've got it hanging from a tree inside their pen with a spring on it. And it's really funny because they'll be drinking from it and they'll want to get ornery with it and start fighting with it. And that spring will pull it right back out of their mouth. And when you see that, like I'm going to set a camera up and hope I can get a video shot of that happening because it is hilarious.
Yep.
But anyway,
right. We're here to talk about chicken water.
Sip happens.
Uh-huh.
We're going, talk about some hacks and stuff. This right here, this is a Jeff inspired slide because he don't care about nothing but quality, and I like that. You want the pH between 6.5 and 7.5. You want your water to be clear. Don't want it to smell like bleach or sulfur. Although I will say if you're on a well and it slightly smells of sulfur, you will probably never have a problem with mites or anything like that. Let's see, in the summertime, you want your water to be cool, 50 to 70 degrees. Now, some ways to do that, lots of people use just, the water tanks. Get you some 20-ounce water bottles and freeze them and stick them in there in the morning before you go to work. Or get you some large ice cube trays. One that works really well is in one of my chicken yards. I've got a lot individually pinned up, and they have half-gallon water cups. Well, I have some that make 2-inch spheres, and they're really cool. I stick one of those in their water cup in the morning, and they go nuts. They'll peck on it for a while. So it gives them fun, and it keeps their water cool throughout the day. That works. Now, for our friends in other countries that use the other system, 10 to 21 degrees Celsius is going to be where you want your water in the summertime. Now, in the wintertime, you want it 33 degrees at least. Anything above freezing, they're going to love it, just like we do. I mean, we'll be outside and come in and get us a cold glass of water or grab a bottle of water right out of the fridge. They like it too. Jeff, while you was out, I was telling them about making spheres to put in water cups or freezing bottles, or if they have a big enough reservoir that has a huge top, you can get 2 liters. You can get gallon jugs and cut the top off of them. Anything like that you can freeze a big chunk and put the whole chunk of ice in there. Put a large chunk of ice. As it thaws out, more water. They're good.
I mean, the bigger the reservoir, the bigger the ice needs to be. But to keep it, keep it cooler longer.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can take a handful of ice and cool down a cup, but you're gonna need a lot to cool down a 100-gallon tank.
Right. Yeah, you really need to be thinking at about the 10% or higher level, 10 to 20% of the volume. So like your 40-gallon, your new system, and I don't know how much we're going to talk about that, but your new system, they ought to be like 5 gallons of 5-gallon block of ice. So if you're freezing a 5-gallon pail of water, that.
So the 5-gallon pail won't fit.
Come on. Oh, you designed it. You did it right with clearances. Okay.
Tank number 1, about the biggest thing you're going to get is a one of those ice cream buckets. That's about as big as it's gonna get.
But you can get a
Now,
couple in there, right?
I'm in the process to try to source some 30-gallon drums where the whole lid removes.
Okay. But aren't you
And
using a 45-gallon trash can?
no,
Oh,
no, I'm using a 30-gallon drum.
okay.
Let's see. RS has a question. How much does one laying hen drink on average?
Okay. It should be between 6 and 8 ounces per day.
Yep.
Water consumption should always be twice as much as the feed consumption by weight. So if your bird's eating 3 ounces, the average will be 6 ounces of water. If it's eating 4 ounces of feed, it'll average 8 ounces of water. So the rule of thumb is 2 to 1 by weight, right? And that's always held true. And when I see that that is not actually holding out, it's a pretty good indicator that the water quality is not good at all, right? So the bird's not drinking its full regiment of water.
So the exception to that I have found is July and August.
It'll be
'Cause
higher than, yeah, for
on 100+ degree days, I guarantee you they're drinking more than 6 ounces of water.
right.
They might be hitting 10.
And when you get cooler, right, you could drop down to 5 or 6 when they should be drinking 8. So that's a temperature based,
Right.
that average like 75, 80 degrees, it's going to be 2 to 1. But when you're talking about, extreme temperatures one way or the other, it can be off 1 to 2 ounces, and there again, like in the winter, it depends on how cool your water, or how warm or cold your water is. And the same thing, when you figure out how to chill your water for the summertime, then they won't drink that 10 ounces anymore.
Yeah. Would their poops be funnier on hotter days due to the water intake increase?
Yeah, on extremely
Yeah.
on extremely hot days, they will increase their water intake, and you're going to get some droppings that just look more like a puddle, kind of greenish white, and they don't stand up at all. That's okay. Yeah, it's normal.
Yep. I'm getting ready to go out of town for a few days, and I was making sure everything was good in my yard, checking all my birds, and you know, 9 o'clock, 9:30 this morning, it was about 85 degrees already, and one walked by me, and I don't. Why can't it just go somewhere else and do this? I don't know, but it just did it right there by me, and it was like nasty and green. And at first, I was like, "Hey, that ain't supposed to look like that." But then I look down at my shirt and it's soaking wet. Like, oh well, it's really, really hot today. It's probably already been drinking a lot.
Yeah.
So, yep. You want to avoid standing algae. You can add pieces of copper pipe, rotate your waters, clean them out every day or every 2 days. Containers with lids. If you're using some type of reservoir system to feed cups or anything like that, if you use black tube instead of a clear tube, that's better. Also, if you use a black bucket instead of a opaque bucket, like, sometimes when you get a jug and you can see through it, that's what I mean by opaque. And if you get a black one or the blue ones from Lowe's, no light really gets through that. The orange ones from Home Depot, I would paint those because light does go through those. But anything like that, make sure you put a lid on it that is, the less light you can let get to that water, the less algae will grow. And if you put some copper in it, magic happens and you don't have algae.
Now, the copper, just for clarity, right, for people, that the copper works on the lower end of the pH spectrum. So if your water is up there at 7.5 or 8, you're not going to get the effects out of the copper that you want, right? So you need some slight acidity to get that copper to break down, but just slow release. I don't want to say breakdown, right? Now people are going to start thinking about copper dissolving. Well, the pH you'd have to get to for copper to really start dissolving is pretty low. But, at 6 or 6.5, it's going to have an extremely slow release, but it's enough release of copper to keep the algae under control. If you've ever gone by a pond that looks blue or bluish green, they've treated that with copper sulfate, right? So that copper is a very widely used algicide, for ponds, pools, whatever. And so,
Jeff, you will be very, very proud of me. I made a purchase that came in the other day. Of course, I got it off Amazon. It checks. It's a water tester designed for drinking water, hydroponic, aquariums, that kind of stuff. And it checks for all kinds of stuff. So it'll give me a digital readout of the pH instead of having to use the pool strips. Conductivity, which I think that's helps tell how much metal's in it. It'll do all kinds of stuff. I've only learned so far how to do one or two things with it, but I was like, Jeff would be proud because I already use water filters on my lines that are outside, but this just lets me actually see that it works.
All right, we got a couple questions.
Yeah. Ashley asked if Dawn dish soap is okay to clean the waters. Do you prefer another cleaner?
No, Dawn's fine. And just make sure you rinse it really well. Don't get it too strong. Don't get overzealous with your Dawn.
Yeah.
But just make sure that you've got it rinsed really well so there's no soap residue. The soap residue is not going to kill them, right? It's not even going to make them sick. But, what's going to happen is with some soap residue, you're going to see some runny boop, and then you're going to be all concerned that you got something else going on. And it just, as long as you get them rinsed well, you're fine with pretty much any type of soap is fine. I don't get carried away with a preference on soap.
Yeah, whatever you have.
Yeah.
You recently switched to nipple water for wintertime. I saw most of them drinking from it. Should I remove their old drinkers now and force them to drink with the nipple water?
I would not. I'd give it at least another week. Join it. Don't. I know. Don't be in a hurry, right? So. And even with winter coming in Ohio, similar climate as us, if once a day you could figure out a way to give them a large volume of water, something like a rubber dish or a bowl or something, where you bring them warm water, around feeding time. My birds really enjoyed that, even though they had other sources. Just the fact that it was warms them up, right around feeding time. It was just a good thing to do. And I noticed in the winter, if I could keep the water warm, up in that 50 to 60 degree range, they consumed a lot more of it. But when it getting down into the 30s, like a cold drink with ice in it, then yeah, it slows them down.
I mean, if you're cold, you're probably not going to drink freezing cold water.
Yeah, but
I did order some aquarium heaters to go in my water reservoirs that have a minimum temp, I want to say, of like 50 or 60, something, one of those, which was perfect for me because I figured, if I can keep it 60 degrees, they'll
what's it
probably
going to
be pretty
do?
happy.
Is it going to do your volume in your reservoir?
It's designed, the ones that I got is designed for a 100-gallon aquarium.
Okay.
So when I go up to the 30-gallon drum to use for the water, plus I'm gonna say 5-ish gallons of water in the line, with it constantly circulating, it should still keep up with the temperature and keep it warm.
So I want to back up just for a second, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but when you talked about the black bucket, so you don't want light getting in the summertime. If you're going to use a darker color, it needs to be kept in the shade, right? Because
Mhm.
if it's sitting in the direct sunlight, it's going to gather radiant heat faster than a lighter color.
Yep.
And I just diagnosed this, from the time I left the office till now. Someone contacted one of my feed mills and said, in June, all my hens quit laying, right? And he sent pictures of his setup, and he had 55-gallon black barrels sitting open in the sun on the back of his chicken tractor. And, middle of June, they all quit laying. Well, I wonder what the temperature of that water was in North Carolina in June.
So I
Anyway.
tested that. One day right after lunchtime, I had a bucket that it's not in use, and I did not put any ice in it. That water was almost 100 degrees,
Yeah, and
and it was in the shade.
you're gonna peak your temperatures. That would be a really good piece of information to share with people at some point. So, but if you set that black bucket in, it doesn't even have to be full sun, but if you put it in direct sun and you want to measure that at about 4 p.m., 3:30, 4 p.m. to get your maximum temperature to see what it
It's got to
actually
be
is.
100.
Because you're using your water should be 55, 60 degrees coming out of the tap, right? Depending on where you're at. So I think it would be really interesting for people to know how much that water temperature can change in the course of a day. But anyway.
So what I can do is actually have a thermometer that's designed to go inside of a deep freeze, and the probe is waterproof. So what I can do is put it in and let it sit for a couple of days. It'll track the temperature inside of it, and we can see what that does.
Mm-hmm. See, here I thought you were going to tell me, like, let's put a meat thermometer, because all these fancy grills now that you can get this Bluetooth thing where you stick a meat probe in it.
Yeah, I don't know that that'd work.
And it'll just send the temperature right to your phone wherever you are.
Yeah, well, on this system, it's made by Govee, and I can tell the temperature. I got another deep freeze, so I got another thermometer, and I haven't put it in yet, so I could stick it in the water, run that, and then hook it up to stick it in the freezer. Let's see. I live in Ontario. When do hens drink their water? I expect frozen waters more important to have fresh water in the morning or the afternoon.
Actually, the first thing a hen does when she comes off the roost in the morning, she's got to have water, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is critical to have water she's pretty dehydrated because she hasn't drank during that dark period while she was on the roost. And we're talking about winter. So, she's been without water for, 14, 16 hours, depending on how far up in Ontario you are. So, first thing she's got to have is water when she comes off the roost. Then she's going to eat. All right. If there's food available, she's going to eat. And then she's going to drink some more because there's a low level of salt and it's supposed to be in the feed. Right. So there's going to be a little bit of salt in the feed. She's going to she also needs water in her crop to start softening and start the fermentation process. So she's going to need water, before she eats and right after she eats. So whenever mealtime is, we're going to have to make sure we have water available at that time as well. I'm guessing RS does not have any power to her chicken coop to keep the waters not frozen, but that would be a thing. And see, that's where your recirculation system, I hope you're going to tell people about it. And we're already about halfway through. So, but the recirculation system with a tank heater in it shouldn't have a freezing issue, at all.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, definitely not. I may see the teens for about 2 weeks in the wintertime. Now up in Canada, I mean, I still don't think it would with the heater in it.
Depends on how long the line is, right? How far is the run?
Yeah.
And
Let's see.
that's when you think about having multiple runs. But
yeah,
yeah,
we've already talked about these.
Yeah.
Bell drinkers, those are nice. They have a high flow, good for groups. They got to be level, and you got to keep them clean. We talked about nipple lines, buckets. That's the cleanest because they can't drop stuff in it while they're eating. No food, no litter. With the nipple lines that I have hanging, I used 1/2 inch PVC to make them, and they can't even light on them. I have a string going right above them where they can't. Cup drinkers are nice, but boy, they like to break a lot unless you have the good ones. Continuous line systems, they're scalable, low pressure filtration, can be used with cups or nipples. Here's some examples. The stainless steel one on the bottom is a turkey drinker. The yellow one is a chick drinker. The red one, kind of in the middle, is a chicken drinker. The black one, technically, is for small rabbits, but it also works well with chickens. And the one that looks like a plus sign, I mean, chickens use it, but that's what my quail use. Well, those are some different ones. And any of these, you see on the internet the PVC pieces to put them in pipe. Any of these will work with that. Also, with any of these, except for the turkey one, you can just drill a hole a little smaller than it into the water line and screw it into it and use it. Now, the turkey ones, they're really high flow, and the piece that goes through, if it bounces too much, that sucker will shoot through your water line and you'll find it at the end. Learned that the hard way. And it'll free flow when it does it. These right here, the ones with a yellow piece in them for the cups, those are the ones that I used in my continuous water line because in the wintertime, there's little water inside the actual cup. They have to peck on that yellow piece in order to get it to come through. So, that works. The cup on the other side that has almost 3 inches wide, I put that on there because those are the ones you don't want to buy. Though any They're cheap. All cups are not made the same. No. I tried probably 10, 15 different types of cups over the years. And once I bit the bullet and started buying the Rent-A-Coop cups, and I say bit the bullet because them suckers are the most expensive ones out there. But there's a reason for that. They last.
You get what you pay for.
You do.
Yep.
That's like the Cadillac of the cup world. So I
Yeah,
will
it's
say
not
this
just,
too: when
it's
you're
not just
doing
owned
a
by Rent-A-Coop. I mean, there's other manufacturers that make a similar design for commercial use. But
yeah,
yeah, the one on the right is more for hobby farmers. And it's meant to keep the price down, and it's not made to take abuse, right? So, but
yeah,
the one on the left,
you don't want it in a grow out pen for sure.
no, the one on the left I see used a lot, in commercial scale, larger operations. So
And
I don't like.
I say Rent-A-Coop because people can get on Amazon and search for Rent-A-Coop, but the company that actually makes those for everybody, I can't pronounce it. I have a person that I'm in contact with there because I order them in bulk from them. Um, but yeah, they make them for all kinds of different companies,
So if you
and
buy them in bulk, how much can you sell them to me for?
less than what Rent-A-Coop sells them for.
Well, that's not a number. Dang, we
I
gonna beat
mean,
around the bush?
I don't have my price sheet in front of me, Joe. They're not expensive though. Even though getting a carton of them shipped over here is about $290. They're still not that. If you buy 100 or more of them, they're about the same price as the cheap cheap made ones. I do remember that off the top of my head. I mean, it's a couple bucks.
Well, it
So,
looks like you can easily disassemble it and like clean out somewhere inside and
oh yeah, the red piece, you can
yeah,
twist it,
twist right
and
off.
you can collect them and throw them in the dishwasher if you want to. That's easy to do, and to clean the yellow piece, really and truly, if you stick your finger in it and you've got an adequate amount of pressure, then the water coming out that line will clean out the cup. Because the if you do like I did and build your line on a slant because you're putting it in a grow out pen and you're going to have birds of different heights, then sometimes the taller birds will be lazy and they'll go get it, and they'll eat and they'll go straight to the water, and you'll wind up with food in it and all that mess. But if you just stick your finger in it, it'll pop out. So this is a part of my nipple line that or no, part of my cup line that I have in some of my individual pens. I've got um I don't even know how many of those I have. I have a lot, but I run half-inch PVC along the back of them because they're in a straight line. Well, on this group, they're on the back because the sun is on the front side of the pen. On another one, they're on the front side because the sun's on the back side. I did that just to, keep the line out of the sun as much as possible, try to keep the temperature down. Um, but they love it. The water flows through. These cutoff valves that you see on the other side, I have those things everywhere. Lots of them. The ones that I purchased they're designed for rabbit stuff because of the size tube that I'm using. It all goes right on there. I'm using a 800-gallon per hour pump, which is a bit much. A 600 will work. The smaller system that I'm going to be putting together in the next couple of weeks for the other side of my yard, I'm going to use a 600 pump. But the key on it is to make sure you've got at least 5 or 6 foot of rise. And that's one of the things in the pump that it has in the specs. Because if the water won't go uphill, you're going to wind up with problems. But so that's how that is. And here you can see where in the edge of the drum, I cut a notch out. That is a power cable that goes down for the pump. And that's water coming in. And you can see the tube feeding the line coming from the pump in the bottom. And that's what it looks like looking down. The green blurb is the pump. The float valve that I have in the drum, because I like to automate as much as possible with water. You know, birds run out of water, you're going to have a problem really quick. They run out of food, they'll live for a day or two. Depending on the population of your pen, that'll be how long they can go before they start pecking at each other. But that is what it is. The Rent-A-Coop brand or type float valve is probably one of the better ones that I found. I did not try to use a toilet bowl style float valve, but I know a lot of people that have with great success. Back here, you can see where the water line comes in. I've got a freeze miser. That's to keep my hose pipe from freezing on a Y connector going into it. Let's see here if we have any questions. Oh yeah, cups do get really dirty, especially those big ones. And with the ones that have the yellow piece in the middle, I mean, they're probably not an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter at most at the opening. And I thought some of my large comb birds, my Rhode Island Reds and my American Breast, might have problems. Nope, no issues. So that worked out really good. They do like the nipples. Rob likes them. They're not much to break. That's true. From China, they're like 40. Yeah. The nipples are not bad at all. If you order them from China, even if you order a couple hundred of them, the shipping will be about as much as the nipples themselves. But, they're still not that expensive. Yeah, the cups, they break. Standard says, hello, Jeff. Let's see. The high heat strategy, again, shade your waters, keep them out of direct sunlight. When you look at your birds at 2:00 in the afternoon and you see where they are, that's where your water should be. Because, 2, 3, that's when it's going to be the hottest. And, they're going to be in the shade. If their water's not there, they're not going to drink it. If I'm really hot and I'm outside working and I sit down in the shade to take a break, I'm not going to walk 50 feet to go get hot water. Not doing it. They won't either. Flush your lines midday in the when it's hot. At the very end of my line, I actually have a tube put there and a Y adapter with a ball valve on it, and I can cut it off from going back to the tank and just shoot it out down the hill. I did that so I could let, if it got hot, I could let the hot water out. I also have, my plan is to raise the drum up about 4 feet off the ground, and I'm going to put a valve in the bottom, like not the very bottom, but about 2 inches off the floor. That way I can put a Y adapter in the line that feeds it. And if I lose power, my battery backup dies, my pump stops circulating, gravity will take water to the cups and the nipples. That's there. And also, I'll be able to dump that thing before I let it fill up and put ice in it during the summertime. So, anything else you could think of for a high heat strategy, Jeff?
No, I mean, just try to keep it cool as best you can.
Let's see. Rob says, don't make the holes too big for the nipples. He's probably talking about when you drill the holes out. That is key. You want to almost force the edge of the nipple in there and start screwing it and let the teeth bite and pull it on in. Plumber's tape works, and Gorilla Glue works too. The downside to the Gorilla Glue is you can't really
it's once and
swap it
done.
out.
You're not coming out again.
Mm-mm.
I'm pretty sure he was responding to Sue's where she talked about them drip around the connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just curious what Sue's pressure is, right? Like you learned the hard way on your first run up. Okay.
Yeah.
Whenever you set up nipples and even cups, right? You need a pressure reducer.
Oh yeah, you don't want to feed that straight from a hose pipe.
Right. But well known fact that if when using a nipple, if water sprays out of it or shoots out of it with pressure, birds will not drink from it effectively, right? They're afraid of it, right? Because they're getting shot in the eye every time they reach up there for a drink. So you've got to get your pressure down. Actually, nipples work really good on a gravity flow. Like if you have your reservoir up high enough, there's enough pressure just from gravity flow.
Yeah, I want to say the thing that I saw said 6 pounds was about the sweet spot.
And depending on, now that's for a commercial house with like 100 or 200 foot line. Okay. And they're anticipating birds working the nipples on a constant basis. In a smaller setup, I would tell you that 6 psi is your high spot.
Right? Yeah.
I would want to see you down closer to 4, and then maybe 5, but it's not a lot of, you do not want a lot of head pressure. If you're counting on nipples. And I get why Rob and you and a lot of people use the nipples, but our friend north of you, Charlie Rich, he did the study side by side with pen of nipples and a pen of bell waters, and this was Cornish cross broilers, right? Out in his field pens doing pastured poultry, but his water consumption on the nipples was less than with the bell waters, and they were slower growing, right? So they did not consume as much water from a nipple as they do from something where there's a large volume of water where they can easily dip their beak and go. Just stay in that, so people know.
Hold that thought real quick.
We would like to take a short break to express our appreciation to the Fortrell Company for their sponsorship of the Poultry Keepers 360 Live programming. Fortrell has been a trusted name in sustainable farming and poultry nutrition for decades, and their commitment to providing high-quality, natural products align perfectly with the values we hold dear in our poultry community. Thank you, Fortrell, for partnering with us to empower poultry keepers everywhere. We're truly grateful for your dedication and support.
Yeah. I like bell waters. I really do. And in the wintertime here, I had problems with the ring around it freezing, but I could hit that with my knife a couple times and pop it out. I'm curious though if the bell waters if the hose will freeze while in the wintertime on a system that's flowing.
It will. It depends on how long the feed line is from your supply line.
Mm-hmm.
But that really thin spaghetti tubing that feeds a bell water, that 1/4 inch spaghetti tubing, is
Mm-hmm.
it's going to freeze. It freezes easy, right? Yeah, once you get below freezing for an hour or so, it's not going to hold. I mean, they're nice because they don't burst, right? Because they're not a rigid, but they're going to freeze. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way it's going to roll.
So I've thought about because I built some rather large pens this summer for projects that I'm planning on coming out with. And I'm thinking about putting a bell water in there too, just for that purpose, because they'll drink more and grow better. I mean, I got like 16 of them. What's 4 more?
Yeah, I like large volume water, right? So trough water. My biggest concern is that the birds without water. So I'd rather have them have access to some dirty water with maybe a little algae or biofilm or something growing in it
Mm-hmm.
than to not have any water at all.
Yeah.
And we're coming into winter season, right? And I guarantee by New Year's I will have at least 2 calls, if not more. My laying hens quit laying, and I'm gonna say, well, they all quit laying, right? I went from this production down to 0, and then I have to tell someone, well, your waters froze up and they didn't have access to water. No, that ain't it. It's got to be the feed, right? It's got to be the feed. So
It's
always the feed. I said, look, if you lost a large amount of production in a 24-hour period or even a 2-day period, I said it was restriction from water. They were unable to drink. I said, you don't have to believe me. I don't really care, but that's the truth of it. They didn't have water. Okay.
Yeah. Go get you a bunch of 2-gallon buckets, fill them up with water, and just set them all over the place and see what happens.
There's only 2 or 3 reasons that a hen will stop laying abruptly, right? 1 is no water. 2 is dead, predator got her, right? Or 3, a predator scared the crap out of her so bad that she's afraid to lay her egg. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Those are the top 3 reasons why. For no reason at all, a hen might quit laying, right? I mean, there's a reason, but anyway.
I mean, not typically.
Yeah.
They're faithful. Freeze protection for the wintertime, heated bases, aquarium heaters, insulate the lines if you're going to do something like that. Vertical nipples are less freeze prone. Also, if you're using 5-gallon buckets, I have seen putting a jar of honey inside of it. Honey freezes at a lot lower temperature than water. And I don't mean like dump the honey in there. I mean, put the whole jar in there right by where the water comes out. I tried that last year. It worked. Again, it's only cold here for a couple of weeks, but it worked. Another thing that I've seen is not a LED or fluorescent, but just a regular standard 25-watt light bulb or 40-watt sitting inside of a concrete block, like in one of the holes, and put your water on top of that. The low heat will keep it from freezing. With that, anytime you involve power and water, make sure you've got a GFCI, something outdoor rated, because we don't want your chickens to get electrocuted.
You're no fun. Come on. I made one of those. I made a wooden box, right, out of 1x8s.
Yeah.
And I made it
1x8 would be the perfect height.
right. So I made 1x8, and I made it so I had the octagon, the red base, white top, Tractor Supply, typical plastic, water, and I had 3 gallon or 3.5 gallon. But I built a box, so it was built precisely so the edges of the water would sit on it. And I got some of the Celotex foam board with the shiny side, and I
Mm-hmm.
lined the box. I put a regular old light socket in there. Now, further north than you, so I ran a 60-watt bulb all winter,
Yeah.
incandescent 60-watt bulb. I didn't know about GFCIs at that point, so I wasn't worried about it. Right, long cord, weather resistant, and I loved it because at night, right when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I could look
See that
out.
little glow.
I could see that pink glow from my bedroom, and I knew that they would have water in the morning. Right, it would take longer than that to freeze it.
Yeah, you didn't have to get up till after the sun came out and go outside.
Right.
Yeah.
And that worked great for me for several years. And just simple. And I cut a piece of plywood for a bottom, right? So it was all enclosed.
Yeah.
Now, downside is when you lift the water off of there, okay, if any water hits that incandescent bulb, you're replacing the bulb. Okay.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yep.
But yeah.
And if you do that, you can unplug it, stick a potato in, and unscrew the metal piece.
Again, I didn't know that hack, so I just grabbed a pair of needle nose pliers and got it out of there.
That works too.
And I'd go through 4 or 5 bulbs in a winter. Just it was a thing. But if we hit occasionally we'll get down close to zero for maybe a week, a week or two. I would run a 100-watt bulb, but I could go out there in the morning. I can go out there in the morning. I can stick my finger in that water, and it was warm to the touch. So my hens were drinking.
Oh yeah, they were loving it. That was like
loving it. Yeah,
that was like hot chocolate.
exactly.
When it's cold out.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Rob said he uses the pipe heater, the heat strips, zip tied to the PVC pipe that the nipples come off of. And that heats them up.
Should
anything.
Work.
Yeah, anything simple like that works. Just keep it where it's bearable. Here's where we talk about set the nipples height. It's chicken's beak level where they slightly stretch up. Level surfaces for the cups and the bells to prevent tilting or overflow. I have all of my bells hung up with they're designed for greenhouses. And it's got a little carabiner on the top and on the bottom, and it's a pull string where it ratchets up and down so you can adjust the height. I use those and they work out really good. Low pressure regulators is definitely going to be key. There's, like what I'm doing, I've got the pump and running through the system. I got the smallest pump I could find at the time that had over 5 or 6 feet of lift. With that, I would say also if you're going to feed it with a hose pipe, then you can look at systems for drip irrigation. There's a reducer that you can get. It only takes it down to 25 pounds, which is still a lot, but it won't make your stuff leak like 40, 50 pounds, 60 pounds, whatever you got. So you can do that, but ideally gravity works great. If you're just going to have it, put your container 4 feet up off the ground, and that should be.
But you can't do your recirculation, right? So with the gravity's all fine depending on where you live. But I mean, the recirculation system that you're working on, because you can now heat it in the winter. You have one heater, right? And you could put any stock tank heater in there that you wanted to.
Yep.
Or you can put huge ice chunks in it in the summertime, right? And not have to worry about it.
And that's a key thing. You know, there's a lot of people in my house, and we've talked about getting a commercial ice machine, a small one, because my wife found a refrigerator that she absolutely loves. It's got plenty of room in both sides, but the ice maker in it absolutely sucks. I mean, it's horrible. So, you know, we've looked at that, and I'm like, shoot, if I get one of those, I can just get a couple 5-gallon buckets of ice, and you know, it'll be back in a couple hours. Let's see what else we got. Sanitation checks. You're going to want to visually check your water in any kind of reservoir system to make sure it's clean, make sure it's good. Descale it, run some vinegar through there. Bleach. I like vinegar or bleach because with vinegar doesn't leave behind a residue, and it also cleans and sanitizes really well. Bleach does too. Bleach will off gas in less than 24 hours and be safe. If it's summertime, it'll actually off gas in less than 12. So that works good too. Let's see here. Joy says in cooler temps, if I use a 3-gallon trough ring water, how often should I completely change the water out? I mean, I would say if it freezes.
Well, I mean, 3 gallons she's got 9 or 10 chickens, so they should empty it on their own about every 5 days.
Yeah.
It doesn't let light into it. I don't know that you need to do a complete clean out on it. I mean,
probably not.
You do. I would say once a week, once a week or once every 2 weeks, do the clean out, right? I mean, where you're cleaning it out and doing something of a sanitation point, but should be able to just keep filling it up.
Wash it on the weekends or something when you're off.
Yeah. She's up to 17, so my math is way off.
Yeah.
Let's see, 17 times 8, 136. That's a gallon a day. It's only going to last 3 days. So,
yeah, she's probably going to be filling it up every 2.
Yeah. I mean, winter's coming, so she might get 3 out of it, but
yeah, and it is heated. So they'll drink more because of that.
Yeah. So she's going to fill it every 2 days, 2.5 days.
If you have wet litter, you got a leak in a cup or a nipple, tilt it, replace it, check it out. Might just need to be cleaned. Sometimes with some of the cups, you can get some crap back in the spring mechanism. I've shot them with hose pipes and fixed them. So anything like that, if your birds aren't drinking, check the height. It could be too high, too low. Prime the nipples, tap the nipples. If you get any kind of any kind of air in the line, it can cause it to stop. So, it's aggravating, but sit there and tap it. That's actually what I did to get mine to use it. And, while I'm sitting here priming the darn thing, some came over there and they were like, hey, what is that? When it was a couple of my turkeys. They're like, what are you doing? Get away from me. I'm busy. And I just kept doing this. And, they wouldn't go away. They started pecking at it too. And I mean, my turkeys have noticeably grown in the past month because I feel like they're drinking a ridiculous amount of water because they will sit and play with the thing for minutes at a time.
Turkeys love moving water. So if they can hear it moving through the pipe, right, it's going to draw them over. They probably can hear things we can't hear. I know turkeys hearing for sure is way more sensitive than a human's hearing.
Yeah,
So
that's cool. I don't know, turkeys, I've had them for a couple years now. I really like them. They're very inquisitive. They're fun to watch, fun to hang out with. If you're in a hurry in their run trying to fix something that's not fun, they'll get on your nerves, but it's still funny. And we've already talked about chicks using nipples. Make sure you get the right kind. Rob uses, I'm probably not the same ones for his adults as he does for the chicks. Although I will say his pan idea with the hardware cloth on top of it, so that, water can dribble down into that and it doesn't mess up the bedding. That's a great idea. So let's see. Joy says, just so I don't have to add more water every so many days. Water temps are more harder on us than chickens. Or winter temps are a lot harder on us than they are on the chickens.
yeah, she has 3 of the heated waters. So
Rob uses the same nipples for all the birds.
So he probably has the broiler nipples, but the layers just work them a little bit harder. But you can do that if you get the right one. You can make it work right now.
I think that's what those red ones are.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the chick nipples are usually yellow because they'll peck it yellow a little bit quicker. But you can use, like those red ones that you have on the screen right now are pretty much standard. They're the common that you see everywhere. People getting all excited about the horizontal nipples now. I don't know. Jury's out for me, but they're all right, I guess.
I don't like them because they make more of a mess. If you have this and the bird reaches up for it, water falls right down their throat, less than on the ground.
Well, often though, when I'm visiting poultry farms of all sizes and scale, one of the common flaws that I see is the nipple lines are not up high enough, because you literally, I hate to see a bird turn its head sideways to drink, to hit the nipple. Yeah. So you really want it to just rock forward on its toes and have to stretch to hit the nipple. But if you have mixed flocks with different sized birds, it's really hard to get the nipple setting right. So
that's why, like, Rob uses the ones like the red one here for all of his. And the thing that I like about those that I don't like about the turkey ones is with those, they're kind of molded together. So the piece that goes inside the water can't pop out and go flying down your water line. I have in the run that does not have turkeys that I have one of these in, I actually have it at an angle. So the smaller birds can get on one end and the taller birds will get on the other. Now, so far, the taller ones have not got on the lower end and caused any problems. But
they don't really want to turn their head sideways to drink. What I'm saying, but I've visited too many poultry farms where,
it happens.
One of the suggestions is you got to get your water lines up, and that's a common thing, or whether it's bells, nipples, whatever.
Proper height is key.
Proper height is huge. I mean, if you're tired of changing bedding and cleaning out and all that other stuff, feeder and water height is huge.
Yeah, it is. If they, for me, it was hard because I was like, I don't want my birds to have to struggle. But when you set it to where they almost have to reach for it, they don't put a lot of crap in it, and they still drink a lot.
Yeah.
So, does anybody have any questions? All right. Well, I mean, with that, we had a great show.
Yeah.
Talked a lot about water, what to do in the wintertime, what hopefully works, what don't. I like the ideas that some of them gave us.
You got to get more. You got to get some good video, and you need more pictures and videos of your
So
your.
that's what this is for. I have a small camera now that has a pretty large memory card, and I have a small tripod for it. My plan is to put it on different things out in my run and try to catch snippets. Like I want to catch the spring on the hog nipple, yanking it out of the mouth. I mean, that's kind of funny.
So you're putting a game camera on there, or what?
No, it's a DJI Action 5 Pro. It has really good reviews. It's small, lightweight. The battery lasts about 4 hours, and it'll shoot 4K video. So I can, have something clean to edit.
You UIT people, you got to have the fancy. I would just get a $99 like game camera that shoots video, 30-second video, and save those.
I mean, this wasn't much more, and I can shoot 4 hours of video instead of 30 seconds.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We're over our time.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.